this video we're going to go over Excel basics, and this is a continuation of a multi-part series, with this one specializing in cell references and named ranges. So we're going to work on this spreadsheet that we've been working on, and I added a discount column, and let's say we want to add a discount to the total. So I've created this area out here that has a discount factor, and it's just going to be a simple formula. We're going to go ahead and hit equals, we're going to multiply the total, and then we're going to multiply that by this factor here and hit enter. So what I want to explain is that it built the formula, and you see it says E2 times J3, and we want to go ahead and copy that all the way down. Now what these are called in their native state here are relative references, and what that means is if we go ahead and copy this down here, nothing's going to show up properly, because as you can see the references on the J side here go down to J6. For instance, here it's multiplying E6, which is this cell, and you can just hit F2 and it will show you what it's actually doing. It is multiplying this cell by this one below, because when we copied the cell down it moved the relative reference. So what we want to do is we want to kind of anchor this this J3 number so it doesn't change. So the way you can do that is with the $ notation. And so what we want to do here is we want it to be E2 times J, but we always want it to be 3. So right before the 3 we'll put the $ and then hit enter. And so now when we copy that down, basically it's going to keep that 3, that J3, and make that an absolute reference. Now if we were to copy this cell over to the right, you'll notice that the J becomes a K, and that's because that is still a relative reference. So if we wanted that to stay, we would need to put a $ in front of the J, and now we would have a absolute reference to J3. So if we copied this formula, let's say down here somewhere, and hit enter, that J3 will stay the same. So that's how you kind of combat the relative reference, but there's actually a more elegant way to do that, and it's called named ranges. So a named range is basically just giving a name to any range of data. So for instance, let's say we want to name this particular cell something. All we do is go up, we highlight it, and then go up to the top left here and type in a name for it. So we'll just call it dis factor, okay, whatever we want it to be, and we'll hit enter. So now that cell has been named something. So if we're somewhere else in the document, we can click on this little drop down, will show our named ranges, and if we clicked on it, it'll take us right to it. And because we named it, we can reference it in formulas. So that's really the key, is that we can use it in formulas. And I want to let you know we can also make name ranges of a whole series of data. So let's say we highlight all of this and we go up here and we just name this test and hit enter. Now we can basically reference that selection again just by selecting it, and it will highlight that area. And since we're talking about naming ranges, we can also name ranges on other spreadsheets. So let's say we go to this area here, we'll highlight this cell and we'll call this test 2 and hit enter. You'll notice that when we click this arrow down, it shows all the names in the entire workbook. So we can click on any worksheet, go to the named ranges and click on a named range, and it'll take us right to it. So so that's pretty interesting, but how do we use it? So now what we can do is up here, let's rebuild this formula from scratch. We can just type equals, we can arrow over to the total, and then we can multiply it, and we can just start typing the name. So DIS, and you'll notice it shows out here as a little label or a named range. So we can just double click on it or type it fully and then hit enter. And then when we go ahead and copy this formula down, it makes more sense. It's not using those $ notation, it's using a named range. And of course, if we change this factor right here to make it 0.4, let's say, all those numbers will change because it's just referencing this cell. Okay, so that's the trick with absolute references and relative references. Now, you might be asking, well, how do I adjust this named range? How do I change the definitions of this? And the way you do that is through the name manager. So you go to formulas and then you go to name manager, and it will show you all the values and named ranges that you have. So for instance, these two we really don't want. So I'm going to click on test and I'm going to click delete and hit OK. And I'm going to click on test 2 and delete that one as well. And then you can actually edit them as well. So let's say we wanted, just for grins, this to be a different cell. So we could say, we could click down here at the bottom and change this to number 5, let's say, and hit the checkbox. And now everything will be referencing J5 when we hit close. And so because it's referencing this cell down here, all the discounts are going to be 0. Okay, there's another way we can also edit as well. So if we click on name manager and let's say we want to put this back, we can click the edit button, and then down here it shows us where it is, and we can click this little icon and we can just click on what we want it to be and click the icon again and then click OK, and that will go ahead and change it. It identifies what the current value is, and as soon as we hit close, all these discounts are going to pop in properly, and there they are. So that's the trick. Name ranges are incredibly helpful and can make your spreadsheets more readable when you're going through different formulas.